Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fabulous episode of Keiser Voices. We're really excited today because we're taking a moment to talk with one of our alumni, take a reflection back on her journey through her doctorate degree. So joining us today is Dr. Robyn Rushing. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Rushing graduated from Keiser University's graduate school with her PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. So my first question for you, before we get to the ones that obviously everybody wants to hear, when you were growing up, what did you want to be? You know, your 5-year-old self. What was it that you thought that you would do when you'd hit this point?
I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I remember telling my grandmother. I wanted to be a teacher. And my life took a lot of turns, from 5 years old till now. But that's what I thought originally that I wanted to do. I enjoyed school, especially earlier years. I just thought that would be something that I could really lean into, and that would maybe that really spoke to me inside. I thought, I want to do that. I want to teach someday. So that was my original plan.
Always kind of wanted to take that opportunity to help and make people better. I mean, because that's what a teacher is at the end of the day. Somebody's going to guide you, really make an impact. Exactly.
And the interesting thing was I think back then I was thinking I would go in and teach, elementary school or maybe high school or a traditional educator. And what I ended up doing, which was initially going into healthcare, I became a respiratory therapist. I then taught those programs for a while. I was a clinical educator in the hospital systems, and eventually that led to my trajectory into administration there. But that was always part of it. It was always the idea of helping people be better, helping people learn and to grow and to see value in themselves. I think I always enjoyed that, helping someone overcome an obstacle. And for me, in healthcare, that was definitely the case. A lot of the work that I did was in life support systems. I did trauma flights and things like that, and helping other people be able to overcome significant challenges. That was just huge. Education was a small part of it at that time. There was a lot of technical components to all of that, but ultimately at the end of the day, we were teaching patients how to take better care of themselves and families how to take better care of their loved ones. And to me, I thought that was maybe one of the best things I could do with my life would be to really give back and to help others help themselves. So that was kind of the momentum, I think, that took over.
So then we're going to fast forward a couple years. You graduate with your master's, and then you decide, you know what, a master's isn't good enough. Let's go for it. Let's go for our doctorate. How did you make that decision?
Well, that was interesting. Actually, it was my husband who encouraged me. At that time, I had left a CEO position that I had so that I could homeschool my 2 boys, both of whom are on the spectrum, but my oldest, who is high-functioning autism. And I knew that he needed some additional help and support because public school systems didn't always have the things in place. We had to move at that time, and when we transferred from Wisconsin to Louisiana, there were just some logistical issues and a couple of other needs that he had that I knew couldn't be met otherwise. So I left my CEO position, and so that I could be there for my boys. And the thing about it is I like to create. I like to build. And if I'm not busy doing that, I can become destructive in my own space. So, my husband found that I was doing way too many HGTV commercials. I needed to do something else. So homeschool was only a part of it. And so along with my boys, as I was helping them with homeschool, I thought maybe I would look at doing the PhD, and had several different choices of where I thought I might go. And so that was an interesting part of that process as well, because initially I wasn't sure exactly which degree I was looking for, and that took a little bit of time and research to figure out exactly what I thought might fit me best.
What was it that made you choose, Keiser and the industrial organizational psychology program?
Well, I had always been interested in psychology. I run a number of facilities, large organizations that had both medical and behavioral health components, and my side was generally focused on medical treatment and medical rehabilitation. But I came to know a lot of really remarkable people on the behavioral health side, and it really piqued my curiosity. And I think that is a lot of what prompted me to begin to look at how could I take my medical background, so I have a degree as a respiratory therapist, and then take that and my MBA, because I'd become a hospital administrator, and I did a lot of business development work there. What could I add to that could still help me meet the needs of other individuals and maybe improve some of the things that we currently do? And so I thought about, at that time, business psychology was still a term that they used a lot, and there were a number of colleges that had business psych programs. And as I began to look at it, by the time I was finishing my master's, it became more well-known as IO psychology, industrial and organizational psychology. And so I really began to look at different organizations that had different programs, the components of those programs, and how well I thought they would meld with what I did in healthcare. And so I talked to quite a few, and Keiser ended up being the right fit for me for a couple of reasons, and primarily because it offered multiple levels within psychology itself. It had a DBA, which I was also considering at the time, but had a fantastic faculty in both of those areas, in both the business areas and their business program, and then in the psych program. And so that really began to pique my curiosity a little bit more. So when I called, the advisors were fantastic. They walked me through. They did sort of what I would consider a modified Clifton Strengths Finder. It's like, okay, what is it that you do? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you like? And so we began to have this conversation about the fact that I'd been involved in a lot of evidence-based practice. I'd actually published with some other physicians at that time in robotics and some other things that we were doing in rehab. And so the advisor actually said, I think you might find a great marriage in that if you looked at potentially IO psychology. And so we talked more about that the PhD, because I'd also considered a PsyD, maybe going back and doing some additional master's work and then working toward a PsyD, but the PhD would allow me to become the researcher. And that was something that I was already doing through my performance improvement initiatives at the hospital, and it was something that I really, really liked. And so by working with them and them spending extra time with me, it wasn't just a single 30-minute phone call. They probably worked with me over a couple of months, and it was finding out, they were asking me the important questions. What do you do now? What do you want to do? What do you see yourself doing? If you could stretch where you think you could go, what would that look like? They were asking me those questions that really had me look inside it and really begin to peel away those pieces about the parts and the degrees that I had, the experience that I had. I already had 20 years of experience as a healthcare administrator. So I was coming with a lot of this information on board, and how could I marry those? And I think that was one of the primary reasons that I chose Keiser. there were a lot of schools that had programs. There were a lot of schools that offered very similar course structures, and even other schools that offered an online version so that I could still be with my boys here and not have to travel somewhere else to go to school. And but I think that because they were interested in me and they were interested in what would help me be successful. And that was huge. I would come to find later that Keiser has a students first mentality. That's something that they talk to their students about. It's something that they certainly talk with their faculty about. I found that to be true. Not just a mission statement. It wasn't just a vision statement. It wasn't just a script that they read. You know, every advisor, I'm sure, has a certain set of questions that's scripted for every university. But this was more than that. And that's what lured me in. So they had a fantastic faculty. And more than anything else, they really were seeking to try to help me find that road so that I could be successful, so that I didn't spend 6 months in and think, oh, this isn't at all what I want, and then have to start over. They worked with me up front to make sure that I was making a good choice for myself, for my family, and then for the future that I could see myself in. So that was a big part of it. There were a lot of pieces to that.
I can absolutely see why, you made the, but let's fast forward a little bit. You're in your program. Any doctoral program is no easy feat. There's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, whether
Right.
it's IO, had you gone with your doctorate in business, I know from, speaking, working with students that, there comes these moments. What would you, I don't know, Paul, or if you don't mind sharing, like, what was your defining moment within your program? Maybe it was something you overcame. Maybe it was something that really influenced you and pushed you forward, be it professionally or even personally. Like, did you have like that defining moment in your program?
As I think about it, a couple of things come to mind. Probably first and foremost, as I entered my doctoral program, I had been having some health issues, and we didn't really know what was going on. I'd been through 3 different states, multiple physicians, specialists. We were trying to figure out what on earth was going on with me. And as it turned out, I had a neurologic diagnosis. I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease, and which caused me some extreme vertigo. I would lose a day, sometimes 2 days. And because I'm a diabetic, it complicated that treatment process as well. And so I was trying to overcome all of these physical and mental hurdles, and really had to make some choices about, whether this was the right time. And I was able to speak with my advisors. Of course, there's a group within Keiser that works with students who have maybe special needs or ADA issues, and we were able to work through that. They helped me work through that so that I could deal with the treatments, the trips to all the specialists, the hospitals, all of those things, and still complete my program and still find a way to do the work and to do it in a way that I felt it was good, that it was still at the level it would be even if I hadn't been sick. And so I think that was a defining moment. It was a test of will, I think, to some degree, but also it was the realization that I don't think we travel this road all by ourselves. I think we have certain people that come into our lives for periods of time, some for a long period of time, some for a short. But definitely there were individuals in my life, both in my family and my community and my church, that were fantastic for me during that time. But Keiser also played a huge role in that for me and helped me learn to express. I tried to hide it for a long time. I didn't want anyone to know. And then eventually I realized that if I was going to be successful, I was going to have to share. And even though that wasn't always comfortable, to allow other people to understand what I was going through and how that was impacting me. And one of the great things about that whole process was that the people that I was looking up to and looking to give me support were sharing with me their own situations at different points in their lives where they'd had maybe not the same kind of situation that I had, but something like it, some sort of challenge where they had to learn to rely on the help of others. And I learned a lot through that. And I think that just helped strengthen me overall in my commitment to wanting to help other people, because it was other people that helped me get where I am now and helped me get through that program and helped me tackle all those things. When you're writing multiple papers a week, when you have all of those different deadlines, when you have when you're going through dissertation, and I was trying to do my dissertation at a fairly rapid pace, mainly because it was a challenge and I wanted to see if I could do it, but because I had supports within my dissertation team, and even outside of that team, there were people within the organization, within Keiser. I had individuals from statistics, from business department, from psych department, from the front office, all who were willing to give me some confidence, to boost me through it and to help me overcome the hurdles that I had. And really, those were defining moments for me. It was, learning to trust other people and learning to kind of let your guard down and to realize that, that you can still succeed even when you have significant challenges. There are still ways to find your pathway, so to speak. So those were some of the challenges that I had, and probably some of the things that I took away from that I now use in my professional life to try to help other people.
A lot of what you just said, like to unpack and take a look at. I mean, a lot of people do suffer in silence. They don't think that there's help out there for them. And it's definitely a real courageous step that you took in speaking up and saying, hey, this is what's going on with me. And you weren't let down, which is amazing to hear, that at no point you did feel that way. Was there, that's a lot to be proud of, to work through all that, work to the end of your program, your dissertation published. Is there one moment for you that you're especially proud of during this time?
I think during the program itself, definitely completing the dissertation and getting that published, and then working with the team that I had at the time to publish an article after that, and then being able to present that article in front of an international audience over a group in New York. Because of my neurologic illness, I wasn't able to fly there, so they allowed me to Zoom at that time. We were able to do Zoom meetings, even, in a situation like that. So I wasn't prevented from being able to speak and to share that information. But I think the thing that was really exciting for me was to take, our dissertation is it's sort of like riding a bike. It's a step toward getting that degree. It's that final step of completion. It's not your best work. It may not even be your defining work, but it is an important piece of work that's required to get you to that point. And then for me to be able to work with other individuals and take that dissertation, that defining piece that was completing my degree, and take that and expand that a little bit and put that into an article and a series of articles and e-publications I've done since then, to help others and to put that information out there in bite-sized pieces that weren't quite so statistical and quite so analytic, but ways that were applicable and experiential that other people could take away in bite-sized pieces. That was a huge piece for me, and I think that was something that I really enjoyed and was really appreciative of in coming out of the program, was being able to take the work that I did during this program and build on it. And that was, definitely something that I look back on and I think, wow, I'm so glad that I had that opportunity. I'm glad that I was able to focus the studies that I had during my program and did so in a way that I could build on it afterwards and help it or use it to help, other people. I have clients that I work with now that I use some of the work that I did, even some of the papers that I wrote. It's amazing. You do so much work that you think, oh, this is just another paper for this class. And if you focus your attention into that, and you're intentional with the things that you choose to write about, you'd be surprised how you can pull from that later. And I have found that to definitely be the case for me.
So picking up from that, so you graduate. What have you been up to since you've graduated?
Oh gosh, yeah. So since graduation, there's been quite a bit. I opened a consulting firm. I was in the process of doing that as I was completing my dissertation. I did not actually take a client until after I'd completed it. I wanted to make sure that I'd completed all of the requirements of my education first. And so I did that. So we now have, it's called H.G. Blackman Consultants, and I have a group of individuals that I work with. We consult primarily with healthcare and government firms, but we also do some consulting with education. We consult with Workforce Commission for the state of Louisiana in doing developmental training with them. So that was definitely a huge piece. I like the idea of being more flexible. I don't always have to go into someone else's office, so I'm working, primarily for myself. I take the clients that I want to take on, and my team takes on other clients. But that was definitely a big piece. And then in addition to that, we were able to, this past March, we were able to initiate a 501c3 for helping neurodiverse individuals find employment. So we work with employers to develop workspaces for these individuals, and then we help train and develop individuals. On the 501c3 side, we help those individuals find employment or potentially find degree programs or vocational programs that can help them really develop skills so they can be more independent. So those are two things that have really taken a lot of my time and a lot of focus, but that I'm really super excited about because we're seeing a lot of things really happen there.
That's amazing. So we're a doctoral graduate, a mom, and a mom of kids with special needs. You have your own health concerns, and then we added CEO, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. I mean, what do you now?
I have to say, my family, and it's so amazing, but my two boys are probably my biggest cheerleaders. So they are definitely a part of it. My husband as well. I lost my mom this last fall, and I was actually there with her the entire time she was in the hospital. I was actually the liaison for the hospital in her care. It was a critical care treatment. It was unlike anything that particular facility had dealt with before. So that was challenging and it was difficult. But my children really got me through that process. That was definitely a time when my entire family came together. And a lot of the work that I do now on the philanthropy side is really with her in mind, with all the things that she loved so much and that she was so proud of, and her grandchildren, the things that made her so happy. She helped with neurodiverse individuals as well, and so the charitable aspect of what I do is definitely with her in mind. So there's definitely that inspiration. So it's not all me. There's a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of phenomenal people that maybe aren't on the screen with me, but they're definitely here with me. So
that's absolutely amazing, the work that you're doing and that your family and your support system are doing for others that need help. So 5-year-old you, teacher, I'm going to make an impact one day, and then adult you is the teacher, is making an impact, with the help of others. Like you said, I don't want to undermine the amazing support you have behind you. If you could give a bit of advice to any of our current students, or maybe their future students that are listening to us right now, what advice would you give them regarding, seeking, personal development or even overcoming challenges?
I think one of the first things that I would probably say is don't isolate yourself, and don't assume that you're the only one who's ever gone through whatever your particular situation is. There may be nuances to your situation, but more than likely there are people around you or people that you have connection to who have been through, if not the same thing, something similar. And that was something that I had to learn. But it brought so much strength to me once I was able to give that information and to share some of that information. It doesn't mean that you have to get on a loud program like this and tell the whole world, but if you can find those individuals around you that you can begin to share with and receive some strength from, I think that goes a long way. So I would definitely encourage you, especially if you're going to embark on a degree program of any kind, where you know that you're going to have maybe work and family life that you're trying to balance along with school and maybe other things that are going on in your world. Maybe it's health, maybe it's a loved one who's ill, maybe it's all of those things. But definitely learning to allow yourself the vulnerability to converse with other people, to find a support group. I know that there's online groups out there. I believe Keiser University actually has some online resources that you can tap into if you're a student. But definitely do that. Reach out within your own community of people and allow them to support you, because you're going to find that that's going to provide you some foundation that you might think is a little weak at the moment. You're going to find that gives you a lot of strength. And then one of the other things that I would definitely say, if you're looking at starting a new degree program, when you're talking to the advisors, hopefully you get the same group of them that I had, and that or that they're similar in nature, and that they ask you about what it is that you want to do. Where do you see yourself? And if you could expand your vision, what would that look like? And if they don't, suggest it to them. Suggest, this is who I am now. This is what I'd like to be. I think it might take me a little longer than 4 years. Would that be okay? Find those things out and explore those pieces about yourself, because I think it helps you make a better decision in the long run. I hadn't really heard of IO psychology until the year that I was about to enter my doctoral program. It had always been called business psychology in prior years for me. And so I hadn't heard about it and really didn't know much about the structure. And if it hadn't been for asking the questions and having them answer those for me, I would have chosen a different path. And I can tell you, this was the right path for me. And I've been able to do so much with that. And so, I encourage you to do that. If you're considering any type of additional education, or, exploring your dreams, or maybe challenging your own creativity, but explore those things about yourself and make sure that that's part of the decision-making process, because I think that plays a huge role. And I know one of the things that I've been able to do within the charity is work with our state and federal legislatures here in Louisiana. So we're currently, I'm a co-author of some proposed legislation that's going through on vocational assistance for both individuals who are on behavioral health and vocational development education side, to be able to develop programs with state assistance to help individuals who are neurodiverse. We have almost 25% of our current population is neurodiverse. That means our workforce is becoming more neurodiverse. And so we need to make sure that those things are heard. And most of the legislators that I had talked to initially did not know that information. So I encourage you, if you have that desire to want to reach out, don't think that because you're one person in one small city. I live in a city of 2,000 people, so don't think that you're limited. Don't think that the size of the place that you're at limits you, or because you haven't completed a degree yet that limits you, because you would be surprised that when you do your research and you come to the place where you have information that you can bring to people who do have positions of power and influence, how much eartime you can get with them, how much they'll listen. And the more that you can do that, the more you're able to potentially influence things that matter to you, maybe things that matter to your family or matter to your community. And I encourage you to do that. I went to a lunch for Senator John Kennedy because my husband likes Senator Kennedy, and he knew him. So I went to a lunch with him and was able to get 5 minutes with him, and that 5 minutes turned into an hour later, and then from there to Congresswoman Letlow, and then from there to Congressman Moore. So one meeting led to another meeting, and it was just a lunch. I happened to sit at the lucky table, I guess, and it was all by chance. There were, it was like pick a number, go sit at a table, but don't limit yourself, and don't think that just because you're in a small place, or because you haven't finished the work yet, or maybe because you don't have a specific set of experience yet, that limits the reach that you can have. You'll be surprised at the reach that you can have. And I encourage you to go through LinkedIn, go through your Facebook, go through those profiles, look through the pieces for Keiser University, and find colleagues or peers or maybe your instructors who can help guide you. But know that if you have an idea, if you have a desire, if you want to make an impact, there are ways to do that, and ways that you may not necessarily think are possible to you, but you would be surprised. Because I think that where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that if we can quantify and qualify our own desire of what we want to see happen in our own communities, if we can figure that out and how we'd like to help, and we can begin to take the first step to do that, then we can gain an audience with people who have maybe a bigger voice, who can then take that a step further. So I encourage you, as you consider your degree program, definitely consider where you want to be, who you are as an individual. And just because a program initially looks like the right one based on all the other education or all the other jobs you've had, you might find, if you have that conversation more than once, that there are other things out there that will really fit you even better, and things that you can do something really remarkable with, and that can help advance you and advance your scope as a person. So, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to explore who you are, and don't be afraid to take those first steps, even if they're baby steps, to make your dream a reality. Because I think that that's the only way we can ever make positive change, is if we at least take the first step. And I encourage you to do that.
That's amazing. Dr. Rushing, I want to thank you so much for sharing such a personal journey that you went on, talking to us about your time at Keiser. It's been such an honor to be able to listen and have this conversation with you. So thank
you so much
for being
so much for having me.
Amazing inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
You guys enjoyed this conversation. You want to hear more, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow as we continue to have some amazing conversations with our guests and getting that opportunity to touch base with our alumni like Dr. Rushing. Thank you all, and have a great day.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.